So in this class, we are going to talk about Selenium Grid and what is Selenium Grid and what are the uses of Selenium Grid and how can we run our test cases which are created by using the framework with the help of Grid so that we can run those test cases in a parallel execution mode. We are going to see all those things one by one. First of all, let's talk about what is Selenium Grid, right? So Selenium grid is basically used to distribute your test cases. It is used to distribute your test cases across different machines and different OSs and different browsers. So in a single word, I can say that Selenium grid is used to distribute your test cases across different environment, right? Let's say, let's take a small equation. You have 100 test cases, and these 100 test cases, if you start running in one machine, it takes 5 hours of time. If you do 20 test cases in 5 different missions, okay, so each 20 test cases into 5 different missions, like 20 into 5, you can able to execute all your 100 test cases in 1 hour. If you can increase the number of missions, you can still able to execute much faster. And this environment, this equation is going to provide by the Selenium grid. Okay, yeah, it is clear that if you can execute 20 test cases into 5 different missions, each 20 test cases into 5 different missions, you can able to execute in 1 hour. That means from 5 hours to 1 hour, you can able to reduce your execution time. That's clear. But who is going to provide this kind of configuration? Who is going to allow us to execute in the parallel mode? Okay, so all these things are provided by the Selenium grid, right? So Selenium is grid is used to distribute your test cases into different environments, and with which with which we can able to run the test cases with reduced amount of time, right? Instead of 5 hours, you can able to execute your test cases into 1 hour. And this environment could be, okay, one mission could be Linux mission, one mission could be Windows mission, and one mission could be a Mac mission. Okay, and in the Linux, you can run with the Linux and Firefox and Mac and Safari and Windows and Internet Explorer. In 3 different environments, you can able to execute your test cases. Let's see a sample diagram so that you can able to understand more clearly. So this is your test code. So this test code you're going to execute in 3 different nodes. Okay, each node you can consider as a one single environment. Okay, each node is a system, and that you can consider as a environment. Here Windows and Firefox, and it is Mac and Safari, and it is Linux and Chrome. There are 3 nodes, and each node is a system, and each node having a different OS. It need not to be mandatory. Okay, all the nodes can have the same kind of operating system, and all the nodes can have the same kind of browsers. It doesn't matter. Okay, but typically people go with different kinds of environment so that they can able to make sure that okay, my application is working on different environments. Okay, so at the same time they're going to get 2 benefits. One is they're going to execute the test code with minimal amount because they are spanning the test code into 3 different missions. Okay, so the test code will be executed parallelly in 3 different missions so that they can able to reduce their execution time. That is one benefit they're going to get. At the same time, they are testing their test code, into 3 different missions, right? One is with Windows, one is with Mac and Linux. They make sure that the application that is under the test is works on different 3 missions. They also make sure that. So that is another benefit. Okay, so let's clearly take a look at this diagram. there is a hub and there are nodes, and your test code is going to interact with the hub. If you see that your test code is going to interact with the hub, not to the nodes. Okay, so the test code will be invokes a hub, and hub will be redirecting your test code or your test method where to execute, whether it is to execute in node 1 or node 2, node 3. It will take the decision. How it takes the decision? based on the Based on the test code it receives. So in the test code you will be mentioning, okay, this particular test code has to be executed on Mac Safari. Okay, when you are executing the test code, you will be mentioning that, okay, hey hub, so my test code wanted to be executed on Mac and Safari, and you will send the request to the hub, and hub will be looking at the nodes which are connected to the hub. Okay, it will check node 1. Okay, this is Windows Firefox, that's not the one you requested for. Okay, this is Mac and Safari. Okay, so this is matched. You are requested for Mac and Safari, and it is matched with node 2. It is matched, and from now onwards, all your from now onwards the test code will be redirected to the test code will be redirected to node 2. Node 2. So from here, the test code will be redirected to node 2. Let's say another test script came. Okay, so if you see our framework, if you see our test code, we have written multiple test classes. One test class is requested for Mac and Safari, that got connected, and that particular test class is going to be executed there. Okay, now another test class requested for Windows and Firefox, and that request will go to the hub first, and hub will be looking at the nodes if any node is matches to that request, and from there onwards that particular test class will be redirected and executed on that particular specified node. Let's say another test class is requested for Windows and Firefox. Now from there onwards it will go to the hub, and from here it will be redirected to node 1. Okay, so the test code, the test class which is requested for Windows and Firefox will be executed on node 1. Let's say there is another test class which is requested for Ubuntu and Firefox. Ubuntu is uh, another operating system which is kind of Linux flavor, and another test class is requested for Ubuntu and Firefox, and the request will go to the hub, and hub will be looking at all the nodes which are connected to that, and it will come here node 1 that is not matched, node 2 not matched, node 3 not matched, and finally it will tell the test class that, okay, hey, you requested for Ubuntu and Firefox, and I don't have any node with that combination. I cannot process your request, and it will tell the error description to the test class, and you can able to see that information on the hub also. So that is how test execution happens with the Selenium grid. So only thing that you require to remember is you will be test code is nothing but you will be having multiple test classes. Like if you see our test code, we are having a login test and we are having a profile test. Okay, login test is requested for a node. A login test is requested for I wanted to execute on Windows and Firefox combination, and then that request will go to the hub, and from the hub it will be redirected to the corresponding node, and in the node execution will happen. Okay, please remember that execution always happen on the node, not on the hub. Hub just facilitate your hub just facilitate your request to be delivered to the right node. It just act as a interface between your test code and nodes. Okay, it will receive request from the test code, and received request will be passed to the corresponding specified node. It will be requested, the hub will be receiving the request from the node, and it will process the request, and it will look for the corresponding node. Okay, if the node is matched, and from there onwards that particular test class will be executed on that particular node. In your test class, you make sure that you specify on what combination you wanted to execute your test class. You will be mentioning that. Okay, so this test class has to be executed on Windows and Firefox. You'll be mentioning that platform information so that server or the hub server can able to pass your request, and it would redirect the particular request to the node. From there onwards, a session will be created. From there onwards, a session will be created. Okay, so a session will be created. In this session, your test code will be passed to the node, and your test code will be executed on that particular node. So that is how hub works. I mean, hub and nodes will be interacting, and that's how grid will work.